It's still hard to believe my own brother would try to steal my wife. And even harder to believe that my mom took his side. But I had a plan. The fallout from that night is something they still don't talk about. Emily and I have been married for a little over a year. We met on a dating app, which I know sounds cliché. Honestly, I didn't expect anything substantial to come from it, but we clicked instantly. She was smart, funny, and genuinely easy to be around. It didn't take long for me to know that she was the person I wanted to spend my life with. We dated for 9 months before I proposed, and we got married 3 months after that. Sure, it was fast. Some people thought we were rushing into things, but I haven't regretted it for a second. Emily's the best thing that's ever happened to me. She teaches art at the local high school. A seriously talented artist herself and creative in pretty much everything she does. She's been through a lot in her life. Her parents died in a car accident when she was only 20, so she's been completely independent ever since. That kind of resilience, that ability to pick herself up and keep moving, is one of the things that really drew me to her. She's the kind of person who refuses to let life's curveballs knock her down. I admired that about her from the start. My own life hasn't been without its challenges either. My family is complicated. To put it mildly. My mom, Janet, raised me, my older sister Chloe, and my younger brother Liam on her own after my dad walked out. He didn't die or do anything heroic. He just left. One day he announced some bogus business opportunity out of state, packed a bag, and disappeared. That was it. We never saw him again. Mom tried to be strong for us, but I think it broke her inside. And when she broke, she latched onto Liam. He was only 8 at the time, and she treated him like he was made of glass, a fragile prince who needed constant protection. She'd say things like, "He's too young to understand why his dad left. He needs extra attention." That extra attention never stopped. Chloe and I were mostly left to fend for ourselves, but Liam? He got everything handed to him on a silver platter. If he wanted something, Mom would bend over backwards to make it happen, the latest gaming console, the most expensive sneakers. You name it, Liam got it. Meanwhile, I was working part-time by the time I was 15 just to afford basic school supplies. Chloe and I used to joke, calling Liam the golden child, but deep down it wasn't funny. It was frustrating as hell. Liam grew up spoiled and entitled, and Mom only fueled it. She babied him through everything. When he dropped out of community college after 1 semester because it wasn't his thing, Mom didn't even blink. She just shrugged and gave him the family laundromat to manage. By manage, I mean he barely showed his face while Mom ran the entire business. Meanwhile, I busted my ass to get where I am. I worked my way through college with scholarships and part-time jobs, got a degree in software development, and landed a good job at a tech company. You'd think Mom would be proud of me for that, right? Nope. According to her, I just got lucky with computers or something. Liam, on the other hand, was the real success story because he was running a business. Yeah, okay. Despite all that, I still tried to keep things civil with my family. It wasn't easy, but they're still my family. Or, at least, that's what I kept telling myself. When Emily and I got married, she brought up the idea of staying close to my family. She felt strongly that having a support system nearby would be beneficial, especially since she didn't have any blood relatives herself. Honestly, I wasn't too keen on the idea, but seeing how much it meant to her, I agreed. We ended up buying a small place just a short drive from my mom's house. Initially, I tried to keep an open mind, thinking it might not be so bad. My mom seemed genuinely fond of Emily. She often commented on how lucky I was to have such a kind and polite wife. Chloe was also great, she's always been the most grounded member of the family. But Liam, well, Liam was a different story. He had the knack for making everything about him. If Emily complimented something at the laundromat, like the little cafe my mom had set up, Liam would act like it was his brainchild, even though everyone knew my mom was the one keeping the business afloat. And my mom? She'd subtly encourage it, saying things like, "Liam just loves spending time with you both. It's so nice to see him connecting with your wife." Anyway, for a while, things seemed relatively peaceful. Emily and I were settling into married life, and I was getting used to having my family so close. I felt like I had things under control. But if I've learned anything, it's that with my family, nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems. Looking back, I feel like I should have picked up on the signs earlier. At first, it seemed harmless enough. Liam was being overly friendly with Emily, but I just chalked it up to him trying to make her feel welcome since she was new to the family. He'd randomly show up at our place with coffee or snacks, claiming he just happened to be in the neighborhood. Or he'd bring over a tool he thought we might need for the house, like a wrench or a screwdriver, even if we hadn't asked for help. He even bought her a somewhat extravagant necklace once. It felt a little excessive, but I brushed it aside. He was my brother, after all. Why would I suspect anything untoward? Emily didn't say much about it either, at least not at first. She'd smile and thank him whenever he brought something, but I could sense a slight discomfort in her. She's always been overly polite, always worried about offending people, so I figured she was just being nice. Honestly, I thought Liam was just socially awkward and trying too hard to be helpful. I even joked with her once that Liam probably needed a crash course in taking a hint. The thing is, Liam wasn't just stopping by occasionally. He was doing it frequently, almost several times a week. At one point, I remember teasing Emily we might as well give him a spare key at this rate. She laughed, but there was a flicker in her eyes that made me uneasy. I dismissed it again, assuming I was overthinking things. Then came Liam's birthday dinner. My mom always goes all out for him. She decorated the house with balloons, baked his favorite cake, and made a spread of dishes she knew he loved. It was a typical Liam is the center of the universe event, which wasn't anything new for our family. Emily and I went because, well, we couldn't really avoid it. Plus, I was hoping it might be a chance to have a normal family gathering for once. The dinner started off pleasantly enough. We sat around the table chatting about this and that. Liam was in his usual self-satisfied mood, cracking jokes and steering the conversation back to himself at every opportunity. At one point, my mom started gushing about how special Liam was and how he just needed the right person in his life to help him settle down. Then she turned to Emily, looked directly at her, and said, "Someone like you, sweetie. You'd be perfect for him." I froze. Emily looked mortified. But before she could respond, Liam chimed in with a smug grin and said, "Yeah, Emily. You and I would have been great together. Too bad Eric got to you first." The words, tossed off like a casual joke, landed like a punch in the gut. The laughter that followed felt like a chorus of nails on a chalkboard. I forced a smile, tried to play it cool, but inside anger was simmering. Who says something like that about their brother's wife? I wanted to call Liam out right then and there to shut him down, but it was my mom's birthday. A scene would ruin everything. I decided I'd deal with it later, privately. The drive home was quiet. Emily seemed withdrawn, lost in her own thoughts. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice laced with concern. She just nodded, mumbled something about being tired. I didn't push it, but the comment kept replaying in my head, gnawing at me. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Liam had looked at her when he said it. There was something else there, a possessiveness that sent a shiver down my spine. The feeling that something was off wouldn't leave me. A few days later, Emily finally confided in me. We were on the couch after dinner, a quiet evening, just the two of us. She started tentatively, saying she didn't want to cause trouble but that she needed to tell me something. That's when she told me about Liam's behavior. It wasn't just the extra visits or the little gifts he'd been dropping off. It was the way he found excuses to be near her, invading her personal space, brushing against her arm, even trying to briefly hold her hand while thanking her for something. He'd made comments that were far too personal, telling her she had incredible eyes or that she deserved someone better than a workaholic, a clear jab at me. She'd been trying to shrug it off, she said, but after the birthday dinner it had all become too much to ignore. She didn't know how to handle it anymore, felt trapped. My first question was, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She explained that she didn't want to cause friction within the family. She knew how Mom always took Liam's side and she didn't want to make things worse. And then she added, the words hanging heavy in the air, that she wasn't sure if I'd even believe her. That part stung the most. The fact that she questioned whether I would support her, whether I'd be on her side, hurt more than anything Liam had actually done. I reassured her immediately, telling her I believed her completely and that I wasn't going to let this pass. Sleep was impossible that night. Everything she'd told me played on repeat in my mind, mixed with all the little incidents I'd previously dismissed as nothing. Liam showing up unannounced, finding excuses to strike up conversations with Emily, going above and beyond to do small favors for her. It all clicked into place, a disturbing puzzle coming together. This wasn't just Liam being friendly or socially awkward. It was something else, something darker and more insidious. The next day, I watched him like a hawk. I didn't say anything to Liam right away. I wanted to see his behavior when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Sure enough, he showed up at our house that afternoon, offering some weak excuse about needing to borrow a tool. He barely acknowledged my presence and went straight to Emily, handing her a coffee and saying, "Figured you could use a little pick-me-up." She looked uncomfortable but thanked him politely. My jaw clenched, every muscle in my body screaming for me to react. After he left, I told Emily I was going to confront him. She pleaded with me not to, at least not yet. She didn't want to escalate the situation until we had a better plan. I reluctantly agreed, but it was an exercise in self-control. Every time I saw Liam after that, I wanted to knock him off his feet. I couldn't stand the way he acted like everything was normal, like he wasn't making my wife deeply uncomfortable at every opportunity. I knew things couldn't continue this way. Something had to give. Finally, after a week of witnessing his subtle, calculated moves, I reached my breaking point. I decided to confront him. I called him over to my house, pretending I needed help with something around the yard. When he arrived, I wasted no time. I told him I knew exactly what he'd been doing, the way he'd been acting around Emily, invading her personal space, making inappropriate comments, constantly trying to isolate her. At first, he just stared at me, disbelief etched on his face, like he couldn't comprehend that I was calling him out. Then he laughed, a loud, mocking laugh, as if I'd just told the funniest joke in the world. "You're being paranoid, man," Liam said, shaking his head, a dismissive smirk playing on his lips. "Emily's like a sister to me. I'd never do anything weird. You're just jealous because I get along with her better than you do." That last part, the jealousy jab, stung more than I cared to admit, but I stood my ground. "Knock it off, Liam," I said, keeping my voice even. "Your behavior's making Emily uncomfortable, and if you don't cut it out, we're going to have a problem." He just shrugged, told me I was blowing things way out of proportion, and walked off without another word. After that, a gnawing feeling settled in my stomach. Liam wasn't taking me seriously at all. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he thought the whole situation was some kind of joke. Later, I told Emily about our conversation, how I tried to stand up for her. She appreciated the sentiment, but she wasn't surprised by his reaction. "He's not going to change," she said, her voice tinged with resignation. And unfortunately, she was right. After that confrontation with Liam, I knew things couldn't continue as they were. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. Honestly, the way he'd laughed it all off was infuriating. I'd been holding back, trying to keep the peace, but at that point, I was done. I knew we couldn't keep living so close to him and Mom. Emily deserved better than feeling trapped in her own home, and I couldn't keep subjecting her to Liam's increasingly unsettling behavior. That's when the idea of moving started to take root. The timing was almost surreal. Just as all this was happening, I got a job offer in Kansas City. It wasn't something I'd been actively pursuing, but an old college buddy who works at the company had apparently mentioned my name to his boss. A week later, I got the call. They needed someone with my skill set and were offering a decent raise. Initially, I was hesitant about uprooting everything, but after the disastrous birthday dinner and Liam's subsequent behavior, it felt like a sign. Emily and I talked about it late one night. I told her about the offer, how it would mean moving out of state, far away from all the drama. Her face immediately brightened with relief. "Do you think we can just leave like that?" she asked, her voice a mixture of hope and apprehension. I knew exactly what she meant. Mom wasn't going to take the news well, and Liam, well, I didn't even want to contemplate his reaction. But I looked her in the eye and said, "We don't owe them anything, Em. We need to do what's best for us, for our own sanity." We spent the next few weeks quietly planning the move. I accepted the offer, gave my notice at my old job, and started the daunting task of house hunting in Kansas City remotely. Emily was a rock star throughout the entire process. She tirelessly scoured online listings, scheduled virtual tours, and even started packing most of our belongings while I handled the work logistics. We didn't tell anyone except Chloe. She'd always been the supportive one in the family, and I trusted her to keep our secret until we were ready. When I finally told Mom we were moving, she reacted as if I just announced the apocalypse. "What do you mean you're moving?" she demanded, her voice laced with disbelief and rising hysteria. "What about the family? You're going to leave us. What about Liam? He'll be devastated." That last part prompted an involuntary eye roll. "Mom, we need to do what's right for us," I said firmly. "This is a good opportunity for my career, and it's what Emily and I want." She didn't take it well, not one bit. She accused me of abandoning the family, of being selfish, and, predictably, insisted that Emily must have manipulated me into leaving. Classic mom behavior, always finding someone else to blame when things didn't go her way. I didn't even bother arguing with her. There was no point. Once Mom made up her mind about something, it was virtually impossible to change it. "Okay, here's the text rewritten as requested." Liam being clueless about our escape plan was a blessing I wasn't about to jeopardize. That departure day was heavy, a real mix of feelings. Chloe, bless her heart, showed up to help us stuff everything into the moving truck, and suddenly it hit me, I wasn't going to be seeing her easy smiles and kind eyes nearly as often. Her hug was tight, and her words stuck. "You're doing what's right for you, don't let anyone poison that." I knew she'd seen enough of Liam's antics to understand why we had to bolt. The drive to Kansas City stretched on, but surprisingly it was calm. Emily and I spent the hours dreaming aloud, exploring the city, maybe diving into new hobbies, even thinking about getting a dog. It was the first time in ages I'd seen Emily genuinely light up. She even joked about finally putting all those art supplies she'd been squirreling away to good use in the new place. A fresh start, that's exactly what it felt like, and I was hungry for it, desperate to bury all the family baggage. We pulled up to the new house late that night. It wasn't fancy, just a simple two-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Still, after the constant tension we'd been living under, it felt like a damn mansion. The next few days turned into a whirlwind of unpacking, wrestling furniture, and trying to get the lay of the land. Emily really took charge with the decorating, and I have to admit she transformed the place. By the end of the week, it actually started to feel like home. Emily was starting to unwind too. She wasn't flinching at every little creak and groan of the house, and she was even sleeping through the night more often. One evening, while we were curled up on the couch watching some mindless movie, she leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered, "I feel safe here." That sentence slammed into me harder than I thought it would. I hadn't fully grasped how much she'd been bottling up until that moment. I pulled her closer, promising her that no one would take that feeling away from us. But no matter how hard I tried to focus on our new beginning, I couldn't completely shake this gnawing unease. Liam. I hadn't given him a heads up about the move, and I hadn't heard a peep from him since we left. A part of me was breathing a sigh of relief, but the other part kept wondering when the other shoe was going to drop. Mom hadn't called either, which wasn't her style. I guessed she was still busy simmering over our perceived betrayal. Emily and I decided not to let it get to us. We were committed to making this work, to building a life far away from the toxic family mess that had been dragging us both down. For the moment, we felt like we were in charge, and that was enough to keep us going. I'll let you know if Liam finds out about our move or if there's anything new. It's update 1%, hint. The police said there wasn't much they could do, not unless Liam showed his face again or made some kind of explicit threat. Which frankly pissed me off but didn't exactly surprise me. Later that night, I rang Chloe, trying to get my head around how Liam had even found us in the first place. At first, she played dumb, swore up and down that she hadn't breathed a word to anyone. But the longer we talked, the more she started to stumble. Then she just cracked. She confessed that Liam had swiped a copy of our house key when he was helping us pack. He must have spotted our address on some mail or a moving box and decided to pocket it for later. Chloe was devastated, kept apologizing, saying she hadn't realized what he'd done until that very moment. She felt guilty for not keeping a closer watch on him, but honestly, I couldn't bring myself to blame her. This was all on Liam. He'd crossed a serious line. I was beyond furious. But the worst part was yet to come. Chloe then went on to tell me things that turned my stomach inside out. Turns out Liam's obsession with Emily ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. He'd been secretly snapping photos of her at family gatherings, and some of them were straight up disturbing. Chloe said she'd seen pictures of Emily at our old place, sitting on the couch reading or something, completely oblivious that Liam was even taking them. But it didn't stop there. He had been recording her voice during conversations and stitching together these long audio files that he would listen to on repeat. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. This wasn't just harmless flirting or pushing boundaries anymore. This was full-blown stalking. How had I let things get this far? I knew Liam had issues, but I never thought he was capable of this. I kept replaying all the times I'd brushed off his weird behavior, telling myself it wasn't a big deal. But now, with everything Chloe had told me, it was clear as day, Liam was dangerous. I couldn't afford to let my guard down, not for a second. Emily was understandably shaken when I filled her in on what Chloe had said, but she wasn't completely surprised. I had a feeling something was off, she admitted. The way he looked at me, some of the things he said, it just felt wrong. She thanked me for believing her and standing up for her, but I could see that this whole ordeal was really taking a toll. She started jumping at the slightest noise, checking the door locks a half-dozen times before bed. It broke my heart to see her like that. The next day brought more proof that Liam had been watching us. Emily was grabbing the mail when she found a letter addressed to her in Liam's handwriting. It was this rambling, incoherent mess filled with phrases like, "You're the only one who understands me and I'll wait forever if I have to." It was creepy as hell. It just confirmed what I already knew. Liam wasn't going to let this go. I took the letter straight to the police, but again, they said their hands were tied unless Liam made a direct threat or showed up at our doorstep. They suggested a restraining order, which we're looking into, but it's a whole process. In the meantime, I've installed security cameras all around the house and I'm documenting everything. Every letter, every text, every single incident. I want to have as much evidence as humanly possible if things escalate further. And Mom? She's not helping, not one bit. When I told her what Liam had done, she immediately went into defense mode. "He's just upset," she said. You shouldn't have moved away without telling him. He doesn't know how to cope. She even had the nerve to try and blame Emily, saying if she hadn't been so nice to him, he wouldn't have gotten the wrong idea. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Nice? Emily was just being polite because she didn't want to cause a scene, and now Mom was using that as an excuse for Liam's stalker behavior. I told her she needed to wake the hell up and realize that Liam wasn't just being sensitive, he was stalking my wife. Mom hung up on me after that and hasn't bothered to call back. Emily and I are trying to stay strong, but it's a real struggle. She's deleted all her social media accounts and she barely goes anywhere alone anymore. I've started working from home more often because I just can't bear the thought of leaving her by herself. Every time I step out of the house, I can't shake this feeling of being watched. I'm constantly glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see Liam lurking somewhere nearby. It's mentally draining, this constant state of alert. It feels like we're trapped, no matter how far we try to distance ourselves from him. I don't know what he's planning, but one thing is crystal clear: Liam isn't just some lovesick idiot. He's a genuine threat, and I'll do whatever is necessary to keep Emily safe from him. This has escalated beyond a family squabble, it's a matter of our well-being. I'll keep everyone informed as things develop. For now, our focus is solely on staying secure and figuring out what our next move should be. Another update. I didn't think things could get any more twisted, but Liam has once again managed to surprise me in the worst way possible. It feels like we're living in some kind of nightmare movie, one with no escape button. I'm running on fumes and Emily is barely managing to keep her composure. I just need to get this off my chest. So here goes. The first incident happened about a week after my last post. Emily had started easing back into her routine, trying her best to act like everything was normal. She didn't want to live like a prisoner in our own home, and I completely understood that. One morning, she decided to visit her favorite art supply store. It's a small, local shop about 15 minutes away, and she enjoys browsing there for inspiration. At first, she didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, but as she was leaving the store, she spotted Liam's car parked across the street. Initially, she questioned whether she was imagining it. She tried to convince herself it was just a similar car, but when she pulled out of the parking and started driving, he followed her. He made no attempt to hide it either. He stayed several car lengths behind her for the entire drive home. Emily called me, her voice trembling, and said, "I think he's following me." I told her to stay calm, drive directly home, and that I'd be waiting for her in the driveway. When she pulled in, Liam's car was nowhere to be seen. He must have turned off before she reached the house, but the damage had already been done. Emily was in tears, shaking uncontrollably as she got out of the car. I held her for what seemed like an eternity before helping her inside. She kept repeating, "I shouldn't have gone out. I should have just stayed home." I tried to reassure her that it wasn't her fault, that Liam was the one at fault, but she wouldn't hear it. We reported the incident to the police, but again, their hands were tied without concrete proof that he was stalking her. They suggested that we keep a detailed log of everything and update them if it happened again. I asked about the possibility of installing a GPS tracker on Emily's car just in case we needed evidence that he was following her. The officer thought it was a good idea, so we ordered one that very day. The next incident was even more unsettling. Emily had started going to a nearby park in the mornings to clear her head and get some fresh air. She thought it would be safe because it was always full of joggers, dog walkers, and families. One morning, she was sitting by the pond sketching in her notebook when she heard someone call her name. She looked up and there he was, Liam, sitting on a bench a short distance away, watching her as if he'd been there the whole time. Emily panicked. She grabbed her belongings and started walking back to her car, but Liam followed her. He didn't say anything, just continued walking a few steps behind her. When she reached her car, she immediately locked the doors and drove off. He didn't try to stop her, but she said the look on his face was enough to haunt her for days. She said he looked calm, as if he wasn't doing anything wrong, as if it were perfectly normal for him to be there. When she got home and told me, I flew into a rage. I couldn't believe he'd found her at the park. It felt like he was tracking her every move. I went straight to the precinct, my patience completely shot. I demanded to know why the hell they weren't doing more. The officer I spoke with, a weary-looking guy with kind eyes, said he understood my frustration. Standard procedure, though. They needed more concrete evidence to build a solid case for harassment or stalking. I showed him the GPS data from that first incident, the one where he'd obviously been tracking Emily. I told him about seeing him in the park, too. He acknowledged it helped, said it added something, but we still needed more. Emily was a mess. She was terrified to even step outside alone. She canceled her plans to return to work, telling her boss she needed more time off. Her boss was amazing, incredibly understanding. She even offered to have someone at work screen her mail and calls if Emily decided to come back. Emily appreciated the offer, I know she did, but it didn't seem to touch the deep anxiety she was feeling. The nightmares started. She'd wake up screaming or just gasping for air, her body slick with sweat. It was like Liam's presence permeated everything, even when he wasn't physically there. I found her one night sitting on the hallway floor, just staring at the front door. I asked her what she was doing. Just making sure it's locked, she whispered. It broke my heart to see her like that. She'd always been so strong, so independent, and now she was scared to be in her own home. I promised her I'd do everything I could to keep her safe, but honestly, I was scared too. Not for myself, but for her. I just didn't know what Liam was capable of anymore. We tried to make the house feel more secure, a small fortress against whatever was coming. We replaced the locks with heavy-duty ones, put in motion sensor lights all around the outside, and installed a doorbell camera that sends alerts to our phones whenever someone's at the front door. I even set up a shortcut on her phone that triggered an alarm and called 911 if she ever felt threatened. It wasn't foolproof, but it was something, anything to give her a little more peace of mind. And then there was Mom. A few days after the park incident, she called to tell me I was overreacting. Said Liam was just trying to make amends, that I was blowing the whole thing out of proportion. I told her to stay out of it, that she was enabling him, making everything worse. She got defensive, of course. He's my son, she said. I can't just turn my back on him. I wanted to scream, to tell her what it was really like, but I just hung up instead. I couldn't handle her excuses anymore. Right now, we're just taking things one day at a time. Emily has started therapy to help with her anxiety, and I'm doing my best to be there for her, to be her rock. It's exhausting, emotionally draining, but I know we'll get through this. Liam might think he can control us, but he's wrong. We're not going to let him win. I'll update again if anything else happens. Thanks to everyone who's been following this and offering advice. It means more than you know. Update 3%. I'm back with another update, and I honestly don't even know where to start. Everything feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. I thought things were bad before, but what happened recently took everything to another level. I'm still trying to process it all, so bear with me. It started out like any other evening. We had dinner, watched a little TV, and went to bed around 10 o'clock. As always, we double-checked the locks and made sure the alarm system was armed. I don't know why, but I felt uneasy as we were getting ready for bed. I even joked to Emily maybe I'm becoming paranoid because I kept glancing at the front door. She just gave me a small smile and said, better paranoid than careless. I don't know how long we'd been asleep when it happened. I woke up to Emily screaming, a sound that made my blood run cold. I shot up in bed, disoriented, trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I saw him, Liam. He was sitting in a chair he must have dragged in from the kitchen, positioned right next to Emily's side of the bed. He was holding her hand, whispering something I couldn't make out. The look on her face was pure terror. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. The question hammered in my head, how the hell did he get inside? I'd locked every door, double-checked the windows. Security was tight, I was sure of it. But there he was, standing in our bedroom like he owned the place, like my precautions were a joke. Instinct took over before I could even process what was happening. I was out of bed in a flash, adrenaline flooding my system. I launched myself at him, sending the bedside chair crashing to the floor as I tackled him. He struggled, surprised by the force of my attack, but I didn't give him an inch. This wasn't a negotiation. I wrestled him down, pinning him beneath me, and roared for Emily to call 911. As I held him there, his words were like a broken record, chillingly calm, she's supposed to be with me. You don't deserve her. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion, like some programmed response. It was genuinely unsettling. The minutes crawled by until the police finally arrived. It was probably only a few minutes, but it felt like hours. When they finally hauled him up, cuffed him, and started with the questions, the pieces began to fall into place, creating a picture that was even more disturbing than I imagined. He'd been stalking us, watching our every move for weeks, learning our routines, searching for his opportunity. Before breaking in, he'd cut the power lines outside. The alarms useless. Then they showed me the duffel bag he'd brought. Duct tape, zip ties, a bottle of chloroform, and a wedding ring. That last one, that made my stomach churn. And a framed photograph of Emily taken from our living room like a trophy of some kind. It was sick, twisted. As they led him away, Liam locked eyes with me. This isn't over, he said, his face a mask of hatred and delusional determination. Was it a threat or just the rambling of a madman? I don't know, but it sent a shiver of dread down my spine. I pushed the feeling down and focused on Emily. She was a mess, huddled on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. I'd never seen her so terrified. My heart ached. The next few hours were a blur of filling out police reports, answering questions, and trying to soothe her. How did it get this far? She kept repeating, her voice cracking. How could he do this? I had no answers. All I felt was a crushing sense of failure. I should have seen the signs. I should have protected her better. The cops assured us Liam would be held without bail given the severity of his actions, but it offered little immediate comfort. The aftermath has been brutal. Sleep is a luxury Emily can't afford. She jumps at the slightest sound, convinced he's still out there, watching. Her therapist is doing their best, but this kind of trauma doesn't disappear overnight. She's even talking about moving, saying she can't bear to stay in this house. I understand. Every time I walk into the bedroom, I see that overturned chair and think about how close we were to something unspeakably awful. Then there's my mom. Unsurprisingly, she's in complete denial. When I called to tell her what happened, she actually tried to defend Liam. He's not a bad person, she insisted. He's just confused and needs help. Confused? He broke into my house armed with duct tape and chloroform. I told her she needed to wake up, that Liam wasn't her innocent baby boy anymore. He was dangerous. She got angry, accused me of trying to ruin his life, and I just hung up. I can't waste my energy on her excuses. We're pressing charges, of course. The police seem to be taking this seriously, especially given the evidence they found in his bag. They've assured us that he'll face a substantial prison sentence, but the thought of him ever being free still terrifies me. I've also hired a lawyer specializing in these types of cases to ensure everything is handled correctly. I want to make damn sure Liam pays for what he did, not just to us, but to Emily in particular. She didn't deserve any of this. Right now, Emily's taken to sleeping in the guest room. She just can't bring herself to go back to her bedroom. I'm camped out on the couch nearby, trying to make sure she doesn't feel completely alone in this. We've started talking about moving again. The thought of boxing up our lives and starting over is exhausting, no question. But if it gives Emily any sense of security, I'll pack those boxes myself without a second thought. It still hits me sometimes like a punch to the gut that this is my life now. A year ago, I was just a guy who married the most amazing woman and couldn't wait to build a life with her. Now, I'm juggling restraining orders, police reports, and dealing with a brother-in-law who's gone completely off the rails. It feels like a bad dream, only I can't wake up. I'm going to stop here for now. I really appreciate everyone who has been keeping up with us and sending good vibes. That's been a real source of comfort during this nightmare. I'll post another update when we have a clearer picture of the charges and what the future holds. For now, we're just trying to stay safe and get through each day, one step at a time. He was charged with stalking, breaking and entering, and attempted kidnapping. The evidence they had on him was overwhelming, especially the duffel bag, his recordings of Emily, and those twisted journal entries they found at his place. He pleaded guilty and the judge sentenced him to 4 years. I'm not going to lie, I wish it was longer, but at least he's out of the picture for now. My mother-in-law wasn't exactly innocent either. During the investigation, it came out that she had been feeding Liam information about Emily's daily routine and pushing him to win her over. She was even in the loop about his plans. It also turned out Liam had a history of stalking other women before Emily. My mother-in-law had paid them off to keep things under wraps, somehow thinking marriage would fix him. The court didn't see it that way. She got charged as an accessory and sentenced to 3 years of probation. She's not allowed to contact us, which honestly is the best part of the whole thing. As for us, we decided to stay in Kansas City, but we found a new place on the other side of town. Emily couldn't handle staying in our old house after everything that went down, and I completely understood. She's still working through the trauma. She cut her hair short and dyed it, telling me she didn't want to look like the person Liam had been obsessed with. She's also started wearing baggier clothes. It breaks my heart to see her feel like she needs to change herself to feel safe. Therapy seems to be helping, though. She's slowly starting to get her confidence back. We've cut off contact with my mother-in-law, Liam, and most of the family. Chloe's the only one we still talk to. She's been a total rock through all this and even testified against them in court. The rest of the family? They still think we're overreacting, saying stuff like, family's family and Liam needs support, not punishment. No thanks. Life isn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it's getting better. Emily's back at work part-time and we're both focused on rebuilding our lives. I've learned a lot through all of this, mainly that being related to someone doesn't mean you owe them your peace or safety. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you should keep. Emily and I are building our own version of family now.